All the coffee-flavored milkshakes in the world won't be enough to wake me up inside from this comatose, sleep-inducing, plodded mess of a film. And I feel bad saying negative things about this film considering everything it had riding on its back, so to speak. By the way, you might be noticing my face is a bit more red than usual. No, that's not because I'm drunk. I am not actually drunk. Should clarify that. Today was, in fact, a beach day. Hence, got myself touched by the sun's ray. There is a moth flying in my room. I will kill it later anyway. So tonight's film was interestingly enough, a Colombian animated feature. And I said to myself, wow, Madhog, you have not seen an animated Colombian film in your long career as a film buff and critic. I've seen films from various regions of the world, America, Europe, Asia, Japan, China, India, South Korea, France, Britain, Italy, Germany, Hungary, Turkey, Poland, Latvia, you get the idea, Brazil, but never a film from Colombia. And to be fair, this was an important film in terms of what it was about, because it was about a recent and complex period of history in the state of Colombia regarding various things as important people getting killed, government implications, the guerrilla the government is facing against, military corruption. It's not all that clear, admittedly. I am not well versed in the history of the state, the nation of Colombia, and the film did not do a good job in the slightest to explain or even basically introduce its story to an international audience. It's clear that Colombians were the primary audience for this film because clearly they were supposed to know what any of these events had to do with each other. It's a big conspiratory mess, not dissimilar from, in style, I mean, from films such as All the President's Men. It is an investigative drama that recreates and reconstructs events related to the nation's history and corruption in high places of the government and various key figures' killings and murders related to said corruption. It's all very interesting in theory, but as you can see, I'm having a hard time process it or even explain to you because A, I'm not well versed in the history of Colombia, and B, the film does not do a good job at all explaining any of this, or like I said before, doing the basic point-by-point introductions. If this was a film made only for the nation of Colombia, then why was it even distributed elsewhere? It seems like a pretty ignorant argument to be making, but when you want the rest of the world to know the history of your country, what it went through politically and socially, you need to be able to understand that no not everyone will already know what all of this is about. You can't just throw seemingly unrelated political and social events that were key change factors in the history of your country to non-Colombian audiences and expect them to understand immediately what you're talking about. It doesn't work like that. We don't work like that. But anyway, that rant aside, that's honestly not the biggest problem of the film. Everything else is. This film is a complete disjointed mess. Imagine all the president's men if it did not have any coherency or consistency, not just from a narrative standpoint, but also from a stylistic standpoint. This film is a motto. This film is primarily supposed to be a CGI film, and it looks ghastly, by the way, not just because of the characters' models looking jarring to look at, but also because of this one unified color palette of a soft yellow, bluish kind, and it's not easy on the eye. Not to mention, it occasionally transitions into actual archival footage of the various happenings, TV media happenings of the period of time that's taken into question, more or less in between the year of 1999 and 2005-ish. And probably the most jarring type of scene to look at is whenever these really low-res, low-poly character models, CG characters, get intersecated, actually inserted with the archival footage, becoming part of them and looking absolutely horrible for that. I don't particularly care about the stylistic choice, but that's not even the worst part. Occasionally, we get a seemingly out of nowhere hand-drawn animated sequence that's supposed to be a symbolic representation of the various turmoils and tribulations the main character is going through. Metaphors in nightmare form of his fears and his findings. The problem is, we are already made aware of those fears and findings and tribulations prior to those scenes. So they feel pointless and redundant, not to mention they are symbolically transparent and pathetically obvious. And the style is so different from the rest of the film, it clashes completely destroying the narrative flow of the rest of the film. And said narrative flow is also quite daunting to be following it, especially again if you're not versed in the history of Colombia, like me. And the characters themselves, they barely qualify as characters. They're more like glorified mouthpieces to convey the expositions and plot information and political rantings that are supposed to contextualize the story of the film, but it only serves the purpose of either confusing me even more or just irritating me even more. Bottom line is, this film is overly long and it never ever ends, and it's not a good watch. Supposedly it's an important watch. At the very least, it might give you some sort of awareness about facts about the Colombian nation you never bothered to ask, and it might be a good platform for you to springboard and get yourself informed more about the history of Colombia through Google search, at the very least. But as a film, as a self-standing film, it fails at every moment. There is nothing for me to enjoy about it. Okay. Tomorrow night, we have the Japanese animated film Sinbad. And apparently, the people who worked on My Neighbor Totoro are involved with that. That's something to look forward to. Anyway, I'm going to get more of the sea, and of this tomorrow. Hallelujah. Oh, you see, it's appropriate because I'm watching Sinbad, so I'm tired. Good night, everybody.